Agent Intercept is one of those fun games that not too many people know of. It's heavily inspired by older games such as Spy Hunter and Hot Chase, the latter being one of my favorite arcade games of all times. Agent Intercept supports ultra-wide resolutions natively, so we don't have to worry about that. With that out of the way, let's get straight into the game. We drive a supercar, one that is not only very fast and resistant to damage, but can also transform into other vehicles when the terrain demands it. You will have noticed that the game appears to play at a slightly isometric angle. And yes, it is weird at first, but I have to say that you get used to it very quickly. As a matter of fact, if you keep watching until the end of this video, it's very likely that you will come to realize that the strange camera angle no longer bothers you. One of the first things I noticed when I started playing this game was that Bangalore from Apex Legends seems to work in the same agency as our protagonist. She will not only be responsible for briefing us between the missions, but also will be there to talk to us during the whole time when we play them. Now, let's talk visuals. The devs have managed to use relatively simple graphics, yet craft a nice looking game. The one thing I was missing though was the feeling of speed. For the most part, I never felt like my vehicle is truly moving fast enough. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that Gibraltar from Apex Legends is here too, only he's playing on the enemy team. The game's music is fitting and energetic, definitely very enjoyable. The thing that impressed me was the fact that it also has real voice acting. In fact, there are lots of recorded lines, many of which will also play during missions. Since the game has a decent sense of humor, it will be making jokes from time to time, and the action feels a lot like what you would expect from a superhero kind of movie. When it comes to the level design, Agent Intercept is conservative at first, but then it ramps up the action to 10 and the levels start getting crazier as you progress through the story. Many of them will even feature boss fights, which is pretty cool. The game also presents you with various types of tasks and challenges between each mission. These challenges make the levels more entertaining, but they are also required when it comes to unlocking the final missions of each chapter. That's also one of the things I have to criticize here. Depending on how good you are, you may have to grind challenges by replaying some of the levels. In my case, this barely ever happened, but it was still the case a few times, so I feel like I have to mention it. Generally, when it comes to the game's difficulty, I have to say that it's not too challenging, so most people shouldn't have too many problems when it comes to reaching those mission goals from the first try. What I did notice was the fact that there is a lack of enemy variety here, but the game compensates for it by providing you with multiple different types of weapons, which spice things up. In addition to that, we also get bonus missions which are not only fun to play, but also present us with some of the additional characters' backstory. If you've watched some of my recent videos, I've mentioned on multiple occasions that at this point I am just fed up with Norse mythology. Everything seems to be revolving around it in these past years, and it's just a bit much for me. So the fact that this game also features Norse mythology is something that annoyed me on a personal level, but will probably not leave any negative impression on most players, yet I felt like I have to mention it. At this point, if you have Norse mythology in your game, it's actually a point reduction, especially if your game is not about Norse mythology. And speaking of the game's story, it is full of super agent movie cliches and will definitely not be the main reason for which you will be playing, but it's entertaining and provides a logical connection between the different missions, which I personally value a lot. I've actually recorded a lot more than the footage you see here, and it gets cooler as you progress, but then I thought to myself, well, this game's story really isn't something that is that impressive, and the gameplay stuff is gonna be the part that hooks the players, so I decided not to share this footage with you guys because it feels a bit like a spoiler, and I definitely want to steer clear of that territory. So while this review is one of my shortest, it does cover all the important points, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything that I want to tell you. Ultimately, Agent Intercept is not a long game. When I finished it, there were some extra missions outside of the main campaign which were still unreleased but marked as to be released soon. In that state, the game still took me around 4 hours to beat, including all the side missions that were already released. Your time could obviously vary a little bit depending on how well you are playing, since you may have to replay more of the missions for these assignments that I mentioned earlier in order to be able to progress if you don't do it the first time around. At the end of the day, the game is just under €17 and will offer a few hours of good entertainment. All things considered, I can definitely recommend it. For me, Agent Intercept was a very enjoyable game, and I would have loved to even get some more levels. Perhaps when they release more stuff, there will be even more content, but for now I suspect that your playthrough won't be much different from mine, so expect to get around 4 hours of game time from this one. I hope this review was informative, even though it was quite short. Thank you for watching Game Filter, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, have a great day.